right? If you want to synthesize protein, you should have those building blocks. Okay, sure. I just think it's like just flavored water. I don't know. It's just one of those things I just never really bought into it.
Welcome back to the Full Send Podcast. I get quality time today. It's just me and Monroe. What's going on, man?
Just
the two of us. Yeah. So anyway, dude, I can't remember the last time it was just me and you. We've had a lot of guests on the show lately. Show's going really good. Lots of really good feedback on the video stuff as well, guys. We really appreciate that. Any ideas for episodes, anything like that? Comments below. Very, very welcome. But before we get into today's episode, dude, how are you?
I'm good. Dude, we're wearing the same shirt.
All right, so
just different colors.
I really like the designs of the shirt, of the shirts that we produce out here, which you guys can find on the website. Can we get them on the website?
They can't get them on the website right now. We're actually talking about that. We want to do some kind of online store. So
yeah, that's awesome. So there's lots of really good materials as far as that goes. The bear shirt, you wore it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That shirt is so sick. I'm so disappointed I didn't make an order for that one.
Yeah, that's my wife does all the designs. She's done great with it. So.
Oh man, yeah, it's fantastic. So if you guys want a T-shirt, you guys got to be a member here. You'll get the email. Make sure you guys get it ahead of time. Shirts aside, what do we got going on, dude? We're gonna talk about supplements today.
Sups.
Yeah, very excited to talk about supplements. Probably one of the most misunderstood things out there in the fitness world. And there's a lot of, I'm going to say, not good information. There's a lot of sales that try to happen within supplements. I was certainly kind of a victim of it earlier in the parts of my my fitness journey. Let's go back there, man. That's kind of where I want to start, just because I think that's kind of where people get wrapped up into, right? So I mean, when I first got into bodybuilding, lifting weights, trying to put on some muscle when I was 6'1", 135 pounds, just out of high school. You would look it up, bodybuilding.com, whatever it was going to be, and you would find your fitness plan and some sort of a nutrition regimen, and lots of times there was a supplement that was going to be associated with that. Hey, you should have a calcium protein shake before you go to sleep at night. Make sure you guys get a whey protein shake or two following your workout, or I don't know, at breakfast, whenever that was going to be. And then there was other stuff that was going to be out there, right? Yeah. Caffeine, BCAAs, pre-workouts, creatine, I mean, all sorts of stuff. And there got to be a point, I was probably 22, and I wanted to look like a particular person, so I took his program and like all the supplements that he suggested. Now, the ironic part to this is lots of people who are suggesting particular supplements for people are people that are either producing the supplements themselves, right? So they're getting direct money to their business. Right. And I'm not saying all supplements are bad, but there's just a lot of bad information out there. Or
for sure,
that particular athlete is getting paid by said supplement brand to, get sales related to that, right? And I fell really hard for that trap. And there was a time back in, I think it was 2014, maybe the spring there, I was spending something absurd, like it was a couple $100s a month for a couple of months.
That's crazy.
On all the different supplements that this one dude had suggested. And it was like a ridiculous amount of pills, powders, mass gainers. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I would have to do in a particular day. And you know what's cool? Like, I don't want to get too narcissistic in this stuff, but like I will post a before and after picture to kind of what this looked like. Because my whole goal at that point was really to be, kind of shredded, have a six-pack, and then look good. Mm-hmm. And I was like 195 pounds taking all of these supplements, and I got off all of the supplements, basically focused on wide variety of whole foods, make sure I get enough protein in, and the contrast in the way that I looked, and I was probably about 15 pounds lighter as well, was just ridiculous, right? So I kind of want to lead it off with that, and also say probably the biggest message to this is that supplements are not FDA regulated, meaning there's no governing body basically overseeing, making rules to go over like what is actually in some of this stuff.
So it's kind of a crapshoot, is what you're saying.
It's 100% a crapshoot, is what I'm saying. So don't get me wrong. So go ahead, Monroe.
Yeah. So there are some supplements, like not every supplement is bad, and I think there is some validity in research to a lot of them. Yeah. Like my experience with supplements is I've tried all this stuff that we're going to talk about, and for me, it's not that it didn't work, but it's just like I think people, especially with supplements, they're looking for a silver bullet. They're looking for
Like a
you know,
magic pill.
Yeah, like instant gratification, you know.
And
it's
I
like
was too.
Yeah, and I had a buddy, you know, a couple years back, and he was trying to lose some weight, trying to get started in working out, you know, and people know that I own a gym, so they always just want to talk to me about that kind of stuff. I was over his house. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm hitting the gym now," and he's like, "Check out my supplement stack," and it's like top of his fridge is just like all these neon bottles, and I'm like, "You take all those, like every day?" And he's like, "Yeah, this is, you know, breakfast 1, this is breakfast 2, this is pre-workout 1, this is intro workout, this is post-workout." I'm like,
dude, that was literally me.
And then like 2 weeks ago,
my scenario, that's
and
what
like
it was.
2 weeks later, like I talked to the guy. I'm like, "Yeah, so how's the gym going?" He's like, you know, like I hit it a couple times. It's like, we're like, the supplements aren't going to get you there, you know, like the supplements will, you know, help at a point, but you got to do the work first. So
I can't really overstress that, like, what do they say? The more information that you become aware of, like the more complex something that can be. Nutrition really falls into that scheme.
100%.
Dude, simplify. Okay, this is probably like one of the golden nuggets that Coach Brandon can give is like simplify the crap out of your nutrition. Okay, here's a couple of things. Right, if it sounds too good to be true, especially with supplements, it's likely too good to be true. And we're going to go through everything, and we're going to go into detail about these particular products, what's good, what we suggest, what we don't, and go from there. But as far as like food and everything goes too, like I eat the same thing probably every single day, particularly when I'm doing stuff to attain a goal. Right now I'm like I started at 193 pounds. I'd like to cut down like 10 pounds or so, like prior to my wedding, just in an effort to reduce body fat percentage. I look fine. Like I'm not in a space where I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm at 15% body fat percentage or anything like that. But I do want to reduce weight, and in order to do that, I just stick to very simple things. So I found this like chicken breast, like Parmesan thing where I grind up some oatmeal and I do like garlic powder. I've ate the same thing for 5 years, going on 6.
And this is episode 21 of the podcast. He's been eating it since episode 1.
All right,
that's what he's talking
it's so
about.
true. So I would just say, like, because people also get into that too, where they're like, well, I need variety, and it's like, dude, variety makes it harder.
For sure.
It just does. And I'm not like saying, look, it's kind of boring, but I would just like find something that you like and just stick to that. That was a massive segue away from everything else. So we were talking about your buddy who was going through his process. He hit the gym a couple of times, had these massive amount of supplements, went away from the gym.
Right. And those supplements, I'm sure, probably still sitting on the top of his fridge. So
I had so when I moved in with Pat and Nick, I had a whole box of like supplements that we'll kind of go through here in a little bit that I hadn't touched in years, and then eventually I just flushed them. Is basically what I did with the vast majority of that stuff, and they were probably expired or whatever it is, if they can even expire and go through all that. So, so Monroe, what is your experience with supplements for you? You've tried some. Was your experience like mine? Did you take them one at a time? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So I've taken supplements. You know, I take protein shakes here and there. My problem with supplements is like, I just got too much going on, you know, and it's just way too much for me to, I guess, remember to take to the gym. You know, I just like, whenever I'm like, oh, you know, I'm going to start taking some protein shakes, you know, I think it'll really help, whatever. I'll do it for like 2-3 days, and then I'll forget my shake, and then I'll go home and eat food.
Yeah.
And I'm like not going to eat a shake after that. So it's just like, it's just one of those things where it just has never really like stuck with me routine wise, and maybe that's just because I know that that's not what I need to be focused on if I'm trying to improve my fitness or health. But yeah, I mean, I've always kind of, you know, tried it for a couple weeks, you know, maybe a couple months, and then I just kind of go back to eating normal food and drinking water, you know.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't gone back, listen to episode 2. It was one of the very first things that we did during quarantine because we thought that was an awesome opportunity for you guys to dial in nutrition. Go back and listen to that, especially if you're somebody that doesn't know what they're doing in the kitchen, needs somewhere to start as far as nutrition goes. That is the most simple way I think we've ever broken down nutrition ever. There's a whole guide, kind of cheat sheet as far as what foods to kind of group together, eat, and everything like that. So go back to episode 2, and you guys can take a look at that and go from there. All right, guys, so let's dive into some of the supplements here that are the most common. Most common one that probably everybody takes is protein. Right? That is a supplement, right? So that's like not a necessary powder that you have to take within your life in order to live, you know, healthy, fit life or have a six-pack. That's kind of a misconception. Protein is in other things besides protein. I want to make sure that we start with that. Monroe, what can you say about protein?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of times, especially when I talk to people about nutrition, it's like, hey, so tell me what protein is. What do you think people say?
Powder.
No.
Shake.
No, what does it do for you?
Oh, gosh, build muscle?
Yeah, builds muscle,
build
right?
mass,
That's what everybody
makes me
says.
huge.
And so people think protein shake, bodybuilding, build giant muscles, and that's the mental progression that they go to.
Yeah.
That's why we see like people asking, hey, should women be taking protein shakes? It's like it's kind of just it's just protein. Like, should women eat meat or
tofu,
anything that
whatever
anything that has meat
fish.
protein in it?
Yeah.
So what my big thing with supplements is that it is a supplement. It's a supplement to what is hard to get in your diet. And a lot of people start with supplements before knowing what they can and can't get in their diet.
Yeah.
And so it's more of like an additive to nothing than a supplement to something that they don't have, So start with real food first, and then if you're struggling to eat enough protein in your day, then that's when we would supplement with a protein shake. But yeah, I think there's a lot of branding and marketing around different types of proteins that have different effects and digest at different rates, and you need this type of protein for this time. It's just like, it's like, should I eat eggs with breakfast or steak? Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of what you
right. Yeah,
what
we'll
you
get
prefer.
into that. I got a good question yesterday from one of the members here about casein versus whey protein. I probably mispronounced that as well, and we'll get into that too. But I also just want to say, and again, this is going back to episode 2. If you guys missed episode 2, there are a lot of really good nuggets in episode 2. Okay, but when I went off all those supplements and I just went into, I did macro tracking. I ate, it was all food, pretty much all food. There were some cases where like if I missed like 20 grams of protein, it was at the end of the day. That's kind of when a shake would come in. But I can tell you that it was very, very rare for me to ever kind of get to a point within that. I mean, the stuff that made up the overwhelming majority of my protein was chicken breast. Turkey would occasionally kind of come into that stuff. Stuff like Greek yogurt, eggs, cheese a little bit within that stuff. That made up my protein-related sources. It really wasn't protein powder. Still kind of isn't. Right? So that's something to certainly keep in mind, and something that we would strongly suggest for a lot of different reasons. But like, one of the advantages of eating like actual food for your protein source also, especially if you're going into something, I don't want to call it calorie deficit, but like if you're reducing the amount of food that you do and you're trying to eat healthier, eating real food has more surface area. It's also going to keep you full for much longer than a shake is ever going to keep you full for.
Yeah, and like, we have talked a lot about processed foods, versus non-processed foods. And the way I think about processed food is like, it's already done the digestion process for you, right? So if you think about a protein powder, you slug of 30 grams of protein shake, your body may not really absorb all 30 grams because it doesn't have to really do anything. It may just kind of run right through you. If you actually have to break down and digest protein, that takes energy to do, and, that increases your total calorie requirements because you're actually having to use your body to mash up and, process that meat or whatever you're eating. So yeah, always choose real food first. But like, if you had to choose a protein, my recommendation is to choose something that is a protein isolate, which means that there's not carbs and fats in it.
Yeah, so like, what is an isolate? People probably don't know what that is. What's an isolate compared to like a whey protein or a mix, rather, is probably a better word for it that they see at a store typically. So
basically, like, whey protein and casein protein are both different types of proteins that are found naturally in animals and plants and everything else. Casein is a little bit slower digesting, so people recommend eating casein protein at night so that you can digest protein while you're sleeping. But I mean, whey isolate just means that there's not carbs and fats in it, so it's just the protein. That's it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say like there's less bullshit in there as well.
For sure, yeah. And if you like, some of the cheaper supplements out there that you can get like a 5-pound bag for like $25 of protein, like there's a bunch of sugar and a bunch of other just crap in there that isn't protein. It's not gonna help you get out of it what you're trying to get out of it, and it's just filler to make it taste like cotton candy or whatever your
absolutely
flavor is.
And if you guys are a little lost on like where to go as far as that stuff, what's good, what's not, we have some here at the gym. You can also comments in the comments below. Hey, would this one be good? Is this one good? And the other thing that I would say to that is also, I don't get too caught up in like casein whey, when I take it, when I don't take it. And in particular, kind of back in the days where I was really trying to decrease body fat percentage, I found something that I liked as far as the taste, where, for me, protein powder is not particularly pleasing. And so I basically found something that didn't taste like chalk.
What,
and I was
Synthesix?
like, what's that?
Synthesix?
No,
Oh,
I
it's
haven't
the
had that
jam,
before.
dude.
Is that it?
Oh, really? Yeah,
No.
PSN. I mean, like, it's not. I mean, it's a bunch of sugar, but it tastes great.
Yeah, no, the stuff that I liked is SFH.
Oh, yeah.
Still have it.
Yeah.
It just didn't
That's good.
taste.
Grass-fed protein.
Yeah,
That's good stuff.
it is good stuff. I really like it. Again, I don't want you guys to like take this as like, oh, that's what Brandon has, so I'm definitely gonna get it. I just found something that I liked, that I knew that I would drink, that didn't taste, again, like chalk or anything like that, and I stuck with that for, it's been years. Again, same thing. When I find something that I like, I stick with it. Cool.
That's good.
Anything else to add on protein?
No, don't overthink it.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And again, if you guys have questions on protein, let us know. All right, supplement number 2. I'm going to group this together, caffeine and pre-workout.
Oh, my favorite. Definitely my favorite
caffeine
supplement.
drinker? Yeah.
Dude, I worked for
easily mine.
Starbucks for
Oh, you a barista?
7 years. Yeah, I was.
Is that what they called you guys, or were you like
I was a barista.
like a coffee designer, or whatever they would call you?
So I had a black apron, so I was a coffee master.
Yeah, man, let's go.
But yeah, no, I managed the Story Worldgate Shopping Center in Herndon.
When are we gonna get a espresso machine in here?
Probably never.
Yeah. Pricey item. The cold brew, if you guys don't know, we also sell that.
Yeah,
I'm dropping a bunch of spotlights here on products here. I'm not doing that on purpose, believe it or not, but basically just educating you guys on what's available within the gym. The cold brew is one of my single most favorite things about Verity Speed and Strength.
So
the
good.
fact that I can go and have that. I have it every Saturday before weightlifting, during weightlifting, and everything. So your caffeine components, mainly coffee?
Yeah, I like coffee. I mean, it's naturally occurring, so and it tastes great. I've always liked coffee. I used to drink it with tons of cream and sugar. When I started CrossFit, actually, we did like a paleo challenge. I was working at Starbucks at the time, and went no cream, no sugar, and that was great. And so I love black coffee. Not too big on like pre-workout powders.
Right.
I don't like the itchy face, and I don't know.
Yeah, and it kind of goes the same thing as far as supplements go. What's regulated, what's not, what's in there, what's not. Pre-workout's fine. Like, if you like your pre-workout and you want to continue to take that, I think that's totally fine. What you should know is it's basically caffeine and beta-alanine is like 95% of it. Mm-hmm. 2 little things that they package into a powder, slap a really fancy label on it, and a neon package, and then mark it up like 300%. So that is something to kind of take in mind. But again, if you have it, you like it, I think it's totally fine. If we're getting into elements of like fasting and everything like that, that's probably a separate discussion. I'm not even going to kind of go into that or anything like that. I'm the same as you as far as caffeine goes. And caffeine, it's studied a lot. It's good. It definitely increases as far as energy goes. It can help you get a few more reps. It can help you run a little bit longer and everything like that. For sure. And again, mine comes from black coffee. I started learning to love that again about 5 years ago, and coffee is still probably wake up and I'm like, oh yes, the fresh pot. I do a French press with kind of make, and I enjoy that currently.
A little side note about coffee. So I have an issue. If I start drinking coffee, I just don't stop drinking coffee, and I wake up really early, and I don't drink enough water. So now my thing.
Dude, I'm in the same thing.
So what I've been doing is I force myself to finish one of these 40-ounce Hydro Flasks before I get coffee.
I need to start doing that.
It's extra motivation for me to drink water when I first wake up. And I've also noticed because it delays the time that you get the coffee. So I'm already awake by the time I'm having coffee. So the caffeine just like hits you so much harder because you're already awake and it like does its job. Normally, I don't know if you're like this, but the first cup is just kind of like getting you to wake up. And then, like, the second cups later through the day is like, okay, now we're continuing to go.
Did you ever watch Dexter's Laboratory growing up?
Dexter's Lab?
Yeah, that one, right?
Yeah,
so there's the episode where, like, the kids, like Dee Dee and Dexter, like, find the coffee in the cabinet. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's how I feel, right? So, like, they drink it, and it's like, magically they, like, wake up, and the sun is shining and everything. That's kind of like the first sip. I'm pretty much ready to go once we hit that. Cool. Closing thoughts. Caffeine.
Love caffeine.
Yeah.
Whatever you like.
Yep.
I'm not, I think, just like with, like, caffeine powders and pre-workouts and that kind of stuff, like I think that Red Bull and Bang Energy and all those is just the same thing. It's just a bunch of crap, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I guess the more pure that you guys can get, the better. But overall, caffeine, relatively positive review as far as that goes.
Sure.
On to the next one, creatine. So I want to begin this by saying to the moms and dads out there that creatine, no, this is not a steroid. I can't believe actually, yes, I can believe that. You know, maybe based on the packaging, why people use it, as to why maybe people think this is an unsafe product.
Mm-hmm.
Creatine's actually, it's one of the more favorable ones as far as reviews and everything go.
For sure. Yeah, creatine's the most research supplement on the market.
Yeah, but it's not like you're injecting, human growth hormone into your veins or anything like that. Creatine's naturally occurring within the body. Monroe, what else can you tell us about creatine, man?
So yeah, I mean, like I think kind of what you said, like people think that creatine is just like, if I take creatine, I'm just going to be able to do 1 billion more reps because that's what the supplement company said.
Right.
So I mean, the way creatine is naturally occurring, it's in the meat that we eat. It's in your body. So basically, creatine's job is to help you recycle ATP. So ATP is basically the body's currency for energy.
Yeah.
And so if you're demanding your muscles do something like lift weights or go running or anything, that requires ATP to make that happen. And the stores of ATP run out and they need to be refilled, right? So ATP is adenosine triphosphate, and your body breaks that into ADP, or adenosine diphosphate. And so once it breaks those little phosphate molecules, then it has to go through a cycle and regenerate it. Creatine basically allows you to have more available ATP in your muscle stores. So it just gives you a little bit, it's like you're going to Chick-fil-A with $20 instead of $5, so you're still eating, but you might be able to eat a little bit more for the same amount of money. That's a terrible analogy.
No, I got it as far as like the energy concerns go, right?
Yeah.
So when you come in here, you're going to have a little bit more left in the tank, be able to do maybe more reps, maybe lift a little bit more weight just in regards to that, right?
For sure.
Yeah, I like that analogy overall. I think that's good. Things to go over on creatine besides that. Get a monohydrate.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's a bunch of like fancy creatines, especially if you look at the back of some of these, even pre-workouts have creatine in them, and they'll say like, creatine super complex, and it's like we combined all these different types of creatines to make super monocreatine X, and it's like cool. What
that's a marketing tactic, guys.
Yeah.
Too good to be true. It's probably too good to be true. 5 milligrams. You don't need to do a loading phase. That's nonsense.
Yeah. You can't take too much of it.
Yeah.
I mean, so 5 grams of creatine is like pretty much the max that your body can take, and it is. It's like, it's something that you just want to have a higher store of in your body, right? So if you start taking creatine, it's not like I take it before my workout and I just can now do 20 more reps, even though that placebo effect, may really help you. You just want to have that 5 grams kind of swimming around in your body all the time, and it'll help your available stores of ATP when you're working out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Next on the list, branched chain amino acids, or BCAAs. Probably people know it more based on that. Thoughts?
I think it's a bunch of crap, but I mean,
so do I. And I'll explain why here in a second, and I think it'll make more sense to some other people. But why do you think it's crap?
So I mean, like the premise of it works, right? Like, okay, branched chain amino acids are the building blocks of protein, right? If you want to synthesize protein, you should have those building blocks. Okay, sure. I just think it's like just flavored water. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I just never really bought into it all the way.
Yeah, right. I was actually talking to Ben prior to this episode, and he was talking to me that he likes BCAAs. And he eventually gets to, he's like, yeah, it's basically flavored water, and I just really enjoy it. And if that's the case, like, okay, that's fine. Here's the thing about BCAAs, at least for me, and back in the day, again, when I was bodybuilding phase, I was also going through my NASM certifications, the National Academy of Sports Medicine for personal training. I was diving really deep into the weeds on what like a chicken breast like possessed as far as micronutrients go, or like essential amino acids and everything. Really got into that stuff because I was like, well, if I get this in food, there's no point in me spending extra money that I could, produce otherwise in my life. And basically what I found is that branched chain amino acids, if you're eating a wide variety of whole foods, they're in there, man. You don't need a powder to be able to do that. So that one's pretty plain and simple for me. Like, I just kind of see it as a waste of money. If I'm eating well, you're getting that stuff. You don't need an addition to that.
Yeah. Funny story about BCAAs.
Yeah.
Not this past Christmas, but the one before. My sister shows up to like Christmas morning, and she's got her shaker like filled to the brim of like colored liquid. I'm like, oh, like what are you drinking in there? She's like, Branch Chains. I'm like, cool. Why are you drinking Branch Chains on Christmas morning? Like, you better work,
man.
Yeah. She's like, I just like the way it tastes. I'm like, okay, well at least you're honest with it.
And so. Look, I don't think it's gonna hurt you.
Definitely not.
If it flavors your water and you really like that, good for you. I think that's fine. If that's how you want to use your money to be able to do that, I think that's perfectly okay and perfectly acceptable. And hey, I love flavored water too. Like,
for sure.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
I mean, one thing that you said was like, hey, a wide variety of minimally processed whole foods. The reason that you would supplement with any of this is if you're not eating a wide variety of foods, right? So when you first were talking about your diet, you were like, hey, I eat the same thing every day. Yeah, that's great for consistency. But if you are never, and this kind of leads into our next thing, if you're never eating seafood, you're missing out on all of the
omega-3s,
stuff
like that as well.
I mean, it's different types of protein. It's it's different. It's different zoo chemicals that are all in there. And like, it's either, eat a wide variety of whole foods, and you'll be able to get those all your BCAAs and
your essential
everything
amino
else
acids
you need,
or whatever it's going to be. Cool. Next one, fish oils. I'm going to say particularly omega-3s in relation to omega-6 and omega-3 ratios. I like fish oil a lot. That said, that's because of the traditional American diet. And they explain this really well, actually, in the CrossFit certification at the L1, where so the more processed the food is going to be, the higher it's going to be in omega-6 related levels. And when we're talking about this, think of like inflammation, skin being red, mobility in the joints is not going to be nearly as good. That ratio should be 2-to-1, omega-6 to omega-3s. And in the average American diet, it's like 20-to-1, right? It's really, really skewed in a lot of ways. And I think that's kind of where we find a lot of inflammation, lack of mobility around the joints and everything like that. Fish oil has omega-3s in there, can actually be something that's really beneficial, especially the more processed your diet is to be able to use. Fish oils, what do you think?
This is another thing where, like, people say it works, and I've tried it, and, it's just like, I guess it works a little bit. Again, I think the science behind it makes sense, but I think you should just, eat seafood once or twice a week.
Yep, and again, going back to wide variety of
minimally processed whole foods.
You wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
One cool thing about what you were saying about the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, like, they explained this really well in the PN certification. They talked about omega-3s being like cars on the road. And, if you have a superhighway, those cars are going to crash sometimes, right? And omega-6s are like the ambulances. But if you have too many ambulances, there's not enough car crashes, and it's just kind of like a waste of time, right? So that's how they, explained you need a balance of both,
right.
And it's like, without knowing, what your current levels are, just taking a fish oil pill is kind of just supplementing for something that you don't know that it might not even be a problem. You probably have a fine level of balance between those two if you're eating normal food. But yeah.
Cool. So again, if you haven't gone back to episode 2, if you don't follow us on Instagram to get the cute little cutout of the foods that you should be eating, and here's the golden nugget to this entire episode, right? Where you should start if you're lost, if you don't know where to go in the kitchen, if you want to lose some weight, if you want to be healthier, is don't take any of these and start with food.
Yep,
and
for sure.
What do we say, Monroe? What is good nutrition? Wide variety of what?
Minimally processed whole foods.
Yeah, there it is, man.
So is there there's other than those ones we just talked about, there's a bunch of other crap out there.
Yeah. So I have, again, there's so much information out there, and there's a lot of bad information out there, basically from products just trying to be sold. And I kind of get it, but it's just incredibly misleading. And again, supplements are not FDA regulated. There's very little research that is done over all these things, and lots of times it's a neon can with a sexy looking label that gets marked up 1,000%, and lots of times you don't know what's in them. So let's go over the stuff that I don't like in particular. Again, these things that are too good to be true. The first one that I want to go over is like nitric oxide. This was one that I got onto where basically they said it can improve vascularity, blood flow, all that stuff. I think it's complete nonsense. It doesn't make any sense.
But I mean, if your heart works right, like why?
Yeah.
Like just do some conditioning.
Well, I think it's like you take a look at like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's got like, the massive vein like on the arm. And like that's what I would think of. And I'm like, man, I want to look like that. A pill's not going to help you do that. Like, here's something that we also haven't talked about. Genetics play a huge role in your body's distribution of stuff.
For sure.
And no human is, created the same as far as like an image goes or anything like that. And like, you're just like different, right? I'm not going to be built like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, even pre-steroid Arnold Schwarzenegger was 200 pounds, 20-inch bicep. He was gigantic, right? Yeah. And that's perfectly okay. And just remember that, right? If your whole objective is to maybe look like somebody else, maybe redefine the goals. So continuing on this train a little bit, weight loss pills, gummies, things like Hydroxycut, not a fan. I think we're in a day and age where we think a pill can cure everything. And again, I think that just comes down from, society, big pharma, kind of giving you this thing that anything can be taken, orally to give you a cure to what your problems are going to be. I wish it was that simple. I wish we had it. It doesn't exist.
For sure. Yeah, there's no replacement for hard work, and eating clean, drinking water.
Yeah. So again, if it seems too good to be true, that you don't have to get up off the couch, that you can just take shakes, you can just drink something. It's just not. You got to work hard related to health and fitness related goals. It's not always enjoyable, right? I love fitness and doing all this stuff. But there's lots of times where I don't want to come into the gym on particular days, and I would rather, sit at home and just do more prospecting, right? My heart rate's not going to be at 170 if I'm just sitting on the phone most times, right? So guys, if it's too good to be true, again, probably too good to be true, right? Mass gainers. So this is something maybe for our ectomorphs out there, people that have a hard time gaining weight. I can go back and forth on this. Overall, I don't think it's a great idea. I think it's a bad habit to build into, just because mass gainers are just filled with really processed fine carbohydrates that eventually will kind of get you into trouble. And I got caught on these because for a long time it was really hard for me to gain weight. This was something that helped me gain weight, but it was mass, right? And it wasn't what I would call attractive related mass.
Yeah.
It wasn't muscle,
it's a bunch
right?
of sugar.
Yeah, the distribution on fat to muscle and that stuff was much higher as far as fat goes. So mass gainers is another one that I'm not a huge fan of in regards to any of that stuff. What else you got, Monroe, if you can think of anything off the top of your head?
I mean, I just say like any of the multiple of pills, and people just take all sorts of stuff, and it's like they're supplements for what? Like, do you need magnesium and vitamin E and vitamin D? And it's just like you should be eating food, and it's a lot of us were sold this magic stack of something that it's like it's not fixing the problem. The problem is your nutrition and your habits around health and fitness, not did you buy the right couple of bottles to make it work out. So yeah, just generally those kinds of things. Detox anything. Detox teas.
Yeah, juice cleansing.
Yeah, juice cleansing.
Not even getting into pills or powders related stuff, but stuff like that. Again, just kind of nonsense. And there's something else that I guess I'll kind of conclude with here as far as this goes. Just kind of body dysmorphia, very common with women. Doesn't get talked about as far as it happens with men. And I never believed I dealt with that, right? There was highs and lows to it, but there was times back in 2017, and I looked really good. That I wouldn't want my picture taken if my face looked a certain way. I was really just not comfortable with who I was. Everything almost had to be perfect. And so my question to you would also be what like what is enough, right? And I personally struggled with that, where I would want my arms to be 18 inches big, or I would want to be 200 pounds with 6% body fat percentage. It's like, that it doesn't matter, right? Like Sydney's not looking for it, like me to be like that. Like she just kind of loves me for me, right? So ask yourself that question, you know, like, why are you doing this stuff? Kind of goes back to goal setting a little bit too, right? Why are you doing this stuff? And then like, at what point is it enough? You know, for me, I can do some cool stuff in here for CrossFit, which is awesome. I think I look pretty good, which is also great. But like, I have my health and wellness. I can go outside and do pretty much anything that I want to. If I want to go climb a mountain, I'm going to go snowboarding next week. And I can go out and play spike ball on the beach pretty much whenever. That is more important to me than pretty much anything else. And also the thought of, you know, being married this summer, getting to play with my kids when those are going to come to fruition, everything someday is going to be awesome as well.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, my why is very similar to yours. I just want to, you know, I was telling Morgan the other day, fitness for me now is just, it's kind of like brushing my teeth. You know, it's just, I want to stay healthy and I want to, you know, hang on to my strength and my conditioning as best I can. But, you know, it's, there's other things in life than, you know, trying to make your body look a certain way and figuring out the magic stack of supplements to take to get that to happen. You know, I just enjoy the process, you know, and I think a lot of supplementation comes from people not enjoying the process enough, and wanting like a shortcut.
Yeah, and I don't want to underestimate how hard that is. Like, we're not saying that as if that is easy. That's something that we probably work on a daily basis. Like, we have good days, we have bad days. You know, just understanding like what is enough, why you're doing something, being comfortable with who you are is really just kind of one of the, I don't want to say magic pills, but it really kind of is.
Yeah.
To kind of going through this this journey we call life and getting better at fitness stuff and being healthier and everything like that. Dude, that might be a really good place to leave it.
Yeah.
What do you got for concluding thoughts? Anything?
Start with food first.
Yeah.
You know, and then take a look at your diet. If there's something that you feel like is lacking, you know, you're tracking your food and you're like, man, I'm really struggling to get 160 grams of protein in per day. I can't eat any more chicken breast.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, yeah, sure, grab a shake. You know, X-Works is awesome. SFH is awesome. You know, anything you like is, you know, I think that's great.
Yeah. I can't underestimate, like, if you guys are confused on something, like, questions are free, right? We're not going to hand you a bill for $20 and we're answering a question about, you know, casein versus whey-related protein. Ask us the question, especially if you don't know. Like, we don't expect you to be an expert in nutrition. Like, we are, right? We've been through all this stuff, cycled through a lot of the research and everything, and have been doing this stuff and helping people like this for years. Please reach out to us. Comment in the section below. If you got a question you want us to address, we can do a whole nother episode on stuff. I mean, nutrition, we could pretty much go for days.
Forever.
Yeah, we really could. If you guys are enjoying the podcast, please, if you guys give us like a 5-star review, Apple Podcasts, that would be absolutely fantastic. If you think our message could help shape somebody else's life, I encourage you guys to share that on social media as well.
For sure. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions like this, like Brandon said, you know, maybe I'll even make a video about it or we'll talk about it on our next podcast. Give us a like and subscribe for more stuff just like this.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll catch you next time. You're listening to the Full Send Podcast.